Ladies and gentlemen, people of all gender expressions, thank you for checking out the North Bank Media Podcast. I am your host, Patrick Strevens. Joining me on the show this afternoon were filmmakers Kuelken and Eric Janvier. I first met Eric in about 2017, and he was actually on my original top 40 list of guests that I wanted to have on the show, so I'm glad we could finally make that happen. I connected with Anna on Instagram, I think just randomly. I don't exactly remember how. And then I was interested to see that they themselves knew each other and had worked on some projects together. So it seemed fitting to maybe get them together and see what kind of a discussion we could have. They recently completed a short film called Ancestral Ink that's submitted to some film festivals. I got a sneak peek of it. It's a great story, very interesting story. I hope it gets out there for everybody to see soon. Both very talented filmmakers. And we talked about a lot of things. We talked about film production, but we talked about some more of the broader cultural issues that are going on. So really chill and laid back. We were actually outside. The reasoning behind that is part of a larger story that I'll disclose in another episode. But the weather held off. We had a good time, and it all came together in the end. So please enjoy this conversation with Kuelken and Eric Janvier. Well, thanks, guys. It's been a bit of an adventure getting here, but we're here, we're outside, and I appreciate you guys coming out and doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So, I guess good, right on time. This morning I watched, was it Indigenous Ink?
Ancestral
Ink, my bad. Great stuff. So where'd you find that girl?
So Poppy, I had known... Poppy is from Fort McMurray, so that's where I'm from. And her and I kind of ran with the same group of people, but we never really met until a few years ago. If you want the really long history, her and my dad used to boxed each other.
Really?
Her dad is actually a former Canadian heavyweight champion.
Interesting.
And my dad, the first and only person to ever knock him out was Poppy's dad.
Okay.
So that's our long history. But I met Poppy a few years ago, and she'd been doing tattoos for maybe 10 years now.
Okay.
Something like that. And then I wanted to do something during the pandemic. I was bored.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create something, and Poppy was doing a Cree tattoo, and I was like, can I film that? Mm-hmm. And she said, sure. Okay. It took us a while to get there. There's a whole thing.
Sure. At what point did you bring Anna in, or how did you get started on that?
I don't remember, actually.
No, I think you were just like, hey, I have something I'd like to film. Would you be interested? And I was like, yes, I haven't used my camera in a while. I would love to do that.
But you guys knew each other before, right? You did a project together before?
Yeah.
And what was that?
I produced and directed a short film called Reserved.
Nice. Which
was produced through Story Hive Telus. And one of the criterias for making this short film was to have at least one female on the crew.
Okay.
Which, I mean, to me was just kind of counterproductive, just to have one.
Sure.
And I was like, I want to just stack the deck and have as many as I can.
Nice.
So I reached out to one of my old mentors, Jesse Semensky, who is, I don't know, kind of like a legendary Edmonton producer, I would assume.
Okay.
She produced the TV series Blackstone.
Sure.
She was on that for a few seasons. And I reached out to her and I was like, do you know anyone that would be willing to work on this? Like I had a cinematographer in mind, Holly Mazer, and then I wanted someone to kind of do lights and kind of assist with camera as well. Right. And she recommended Holly, and I reached out to Anna, not Holly. I reached out to Anna.
Sure.
And that's kind of how it all came together.
Right on. First impressions of Eric.
Just really chill. Yeah, really chill. It wasn't this was kind of the first set that I've kind of ever worked on. I think I said I did more than I actually did. Holly actually helped me out a lot. I was like, do you want the light here? She basically would move it to the right spot. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I swear I have skills. But yeah, it was a great set because it was such a small crew. We all helped each other out. I mean, I was supposed to do lighting, but I also did the copper and,
Nice.
you know, helped out. And it was really great for me because I learned a lot. And then everybody just got along really well. And yeah, I don't know. It was great. It was a great experience.
That sounds good, because I've been on sets where there's a lot of, let's say, pretentiousness as you go up the ranks. It's like people in the department head position feel like they have to own that. So
Yeah, like there's so much hierarchy, you know,
Yeah,
and I
there
just
is.
like don't believe in that. So.
Right.
I've always been of the mindset like film is it's creating together. Like everyone comes together to create something, not just the director or whatever. Like everyone has to work together, and if nobody's working together in like properly, then what is the point?
What is the point?
Like if you're going to be a dick about filmmaking, I don't think this is the job for you. This isn't the 1960s anymore. This
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
times have changed. You need to change with them.
Right. Right. So have you had experiences where it's not as fun a set as it was with Eric?
Yeah, definitely. It's like you get the snapping of the fingers or the shush, and it's like, oh, do not do that.
I mean, there's a time and place for a shush.
Oh, for sure, but it's
Like
just
if
like,
we're rolling?
yeah, oh yeah, totally. But no, I mean, for the most part, I've had great experiences. But I've worked on some sets, and like the grips are telling me like, okay, make sure that you don't eat before the actors do, and
really?
like all these things, and
okay.
I'm just like scared. I'm like, oh my god, like there's so many rules. But I think it's just different from set to set.
Set to set. I do notice there's a lot of what you're saying, or there's like the hierarchies for sure. I also notice the lingo, the language that they use, especially in grip and camera, is like a way to kind of keep you, like if you don't know what they're talking about, it's like, oh, I have to explain to you what a brute is or what a net is or whatever.
I've been in this industry for like 13 years. I still don't know half the lingo. I forgot what a C-47 was today. I saw someone post that. I'm like, all right, that's what a C-47 is.
It's not that important. Actually,
It's not.
It's pretty important.
It is.
Depends what you're doing.
I'm glad I have a cell phone where I can Google it really fast.
For sure.
I mean, I'm in the position where it's like I don't need to worry about that stuff.
No, that's true. So, Eric, you're more on like production, direction side of things?
Yeah, more so. I've been kind of falling back into writing.
Oh, right
has
on.
been my
Cool.
my go-to. Well, I mean, I've been writing forever, but it's kind of where I'm seeing my direction.
Cool.
As well as like I love producing. I love being from start to finish on a production, and then directing once in a while, depending on what it is.
Okay.
I don't want to always direct, just because producing is also hard.
Right.
So producing and directing, like on Reserved, was
Too much?
So difficult.
Okay.
Because I also acted in that.
Oh, you're right. I saw that scene. So
Not by choice.
Not by choice. It was like, oh, so what happened? Just no more money?
No, there was lots of money. I had lots of money. People just did not get back to me for roles. Like I reached out to all these people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it sounds so great. I want to do this." I'm like, "Perfect. Here's the dates," and then not hear a thing.
Right.
Strange.
As the date came, I was like, "There's no one getting back to me. Time to dust off my old acting boots."
What was the feedback that you got on Reserved when it came out? Like, did it play on Telus Optic?
So it was on Telus Optic as well as on their YouTube channel. Very well, actually. So I got to go to the Imaginative Film Festival in 2019.
Yeah.
Were you at 2019? I don't know what years are anymore.
No, it doesn't matter anymore.
No. So I got to go there, and I was invited by by the National Screen Institute as well as Story Hive. So I got to meet with all the people face to face, as opposed to just emails and phone calls.
Nice.
And every single one of them was like, "Oh, your project was so great. It was funny. It was different." You know, praising the actor Ricky, who's just hilarious, and she was so nervous to do that shoot.
Really?
Yeah.
She did a good job.
I know. Everyone always told me that. They're like, "She's so good. Like, she's just so natural." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I hired her." So yeah, I've gotten a lot of great praise. Unfortunately, there is something that is coming up that I can't talk about right now until an official press release.
Okay.
I don't know when this is going to be released, but
soon.
I
have no more in the can. So
the press release won't be until like the end of May, I think.
Okay. And you're producing on that one?
Oh no, this is with the Short Film Reserve.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So it's something really cool that's coming up that we get to screen at.
Beauty.
Yeah.
Is it important to you, Anna, to work on stories like the ones Eric did? Like, is there something there, or was it just whatever? Like,
No, it's definitely definitely important. It's also just like really nice to meet other storytellers and like how they've come up with a concept and how they visualize it. I think it's really fascinating because we're all different. Everything's so subjective, right? Like, you know, if you gave me your script and I was the one to film it, it would have turned out different, you know? But so I like being able to work with multiple different people.
I hear you. I like what you said, Eric, how it's such a collaborative effort, right? Like if you want to be a solo artist, be a painter, right? Or be maybe a photographer or even, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, on Ancestral Ink, right? Like, I gave Anna co-directing credit because really she did most of the work on set. Like, I did most of the producing to get it set up.
Get it there,
or I should say I did all the producing because she
Yeah.
just showed up and filmed it. But, like, it was, you know, it was a collaborative effort, and I directed a little bit, but Anna was the one that had the camera. She was getting all the shots, and, you know, once in a while I was like, hey, can we get this shot? And she's like, yeah, sure. Even though she got, and I don't even think any of the shots I told you to get, we did not use.
Oh no!
I was like, let's get a cool, like, you know, like pan or on your
my glider, yeah.
let's do a time lapse. Did not use any of those shots that I asked for.
But we had it, so that's all that matters. It was just nice too, because I was just like, I hadn't shot in a while, and I was like, I'm just gonna like get this. I want to do this. And yeah, it was fun. It was really fun.
You shot that on a Red?
No, I have a Blackmagic 4K.
Oh, nice. I love that camera.
Yeah, it's great. The poor man's Red, as they call it.
The poor man's Red, sure.
Hey, those things are
I don't know. We shot something last week on the new one, the 6K. What do you say? It is magic. It's as close to...
It really is.
It reminds me of, like, 10 years ago when people were using, like, the 5D or the 7D.
Right.
Where, like, it gave out really good image. It just wasn't, like, cinema quality.
Sure.
But it's still beautiful. It's amazing for short films or independent films.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't put too much stock in that cinema camera thing until I shot something back in November on a Red. It's that janky old Red that they have at Fava. I think it's like a Red.
Oh, and they're loud.
It is their epic. It's just like 10 years ago epic.
Right. But then to see that footage, it's like, oh, there is something there that can't be replicated on a smaller sensor.
No.
You know? So is that something that you prioritize, Eric, when you're gearing up for something? Like, you got to have that camera?
Honestly, it depends on what I'm shooting.
Right.
Like, if I were to shoot, like, let's say a really cool historical Western, which I'm actually writing.
Nice.
I would love to shoot that on film because it to me, it comes down to what the story is and what kind of imagery I want to portray. And if it's something that's like a fast-paced, quirky comedy, it doesn't need to be film. It doesn't even need to be a red epic.
No.
It just needs to be good and funny, and the quality of camera to me doesn't really matter. Like, I base a lot of my stuff off of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where their first 7 seasons was shot on the DVX 100.
Really?
Which anyone who came up in the early 2000s as a filmmaker like myself, that camera was crap, but it was amazing.
Crap, how so? Just the quality?
The quality.
Yeah.
The quality, it's a little, DV camera with a little tape.
Really?
And barely any kind of white balance or any kind of anything
overexposed a lot.
But I loved shooting. I shot a really crappy feature film on that thing.
Nice.
Will possibly never see the light of day.
Good.
But the footage was amazing.
Weird, eh?
Yeah.
Like, so just not user-friendly, but it could deliver if you could just get it there kind of thing? Yeah. There was an era there of digital video, like the early 2000s to maybe 2010 or so, where there's like, I love that look. Like the British version of The Office comes to mind. The movie Fubar. Those are just 2 of my personals.
Yeah.
There's something.
I think if you were to make a film and you chose to do it in the era of in 2000s or whatever, then I would go with a DV camera.
Yeah.
Same with film. Like, if you're doing a historical film, I would film it on film.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it just suits the time, and you can't really get the film look by shooting it on a. So you try.
You get close.
But it's still not like The Lighthouse. They shot that all on film.
Sure.
And it's beautiful. Yeah.
Right. Black and white film.
Yeah, black and white. Actually, I when I was in Halifax, a guy had to he was the main, I can't remember his name, but main film dude, and he had to he was the only person that was able to, that knew how to load film into a camera. So that was his job.
Yeah. It's a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
Is that dying as a medium, film, like celluloid? Do you guys know?
It's hard to say because there's a lot of filmmakers that still use it. Like Tarantino still uses it, Christopher Nolan. So like as long as these big names are still using it, I think there's a place for it. It just has to be the right place. The same with like digital cinema, right? Like there needs to be a place for those cameras. The same there needs to be for film.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I like what you're saying. Like it's kind of like the medium is the message. It's like shoot it on what's going to serve the story. Yeah. Hadn't thought about that. I would just always get the best camera I could get my hands on. But
right? Yeah.
That's a little heavy-handed maybe in a way.
I mean, you still make it look good, like you said. Like it's a DV camera, and it's
Well,
nowadays it's trash. But I mean, for the time, and people did good work with it. So.
28 Days Later still holds up as one of the best zombie films, and that was shot on a camera that you could at the time buy for $2,000.
What camera was that?
It was a Canon.
Like a 5D?
No, this was before the DSLRs kind of came out. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was just like a DV camera, nothing special. $1,000, $2,000. So I think he had like 3 on set, and that's all he had. That's all he needed.
You have to remember that really. I guess depending who you talk to, but really that is secondary, right? The story, like I had a guy who used to say, you could shoot it on a potato, right? Like as long as the story holds up.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
Story and sound. If you don't have good sound,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what a
Sound
lot of
is-
people overlook is you can have a crappy camera and amazing sound, and you can have an amazing camera and crappy sound. Which film are you going to watch?
Yeah, people
the
are going to
one that
notice.
you can't hear, or the one that you can.
Right. Absolutely. Why do you think that is?
Sound?
Yeah. Like.
You're just paying attention. You're not paying attention to the image anymore. You're paying attention to the sound, so
Yeah.
you're just so distracted by it.
Right.
But like if you,
Right.
there's a, let's say, trying to think of a movie like Pitch Black or Pitch Dark, whatever that movie was with Vin Diesel back in
Oh
2001.
God. Yeah. Pitch Black.
I think it's Pitch Black.
Been a while.
Like that film, you know,
It's been a while since I've seen that one. Yeah.
if that film didn't have amazing sound, it would have just been a really crappy sounding movie with Vin Diesel
That you
mainly in the dark.
Right, that you couldn't see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask. We were talking to this Anna a bit about this on the way over. How you're more of a rural upbringing. And I was really struggling. I'm like, do I want to draw a comparison between these two people as little as I know them? And I don't want to do that. But like, I wonder, do you find a similarity with your backgrounds that maybe drew you to the same stories, to the same places? Or has it just been like, I can get along with this person?
First of all, I did not grow up rural.
No.
I grew up in Fort McMurray. That's
Okay.
like, that's small town city.
But you're sort of, okay, sure. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in the middle of the nowhere. So going to the bush was no crazy. Like
I mean, like we both like the hunting and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Okay.
And like also like, Fort Mac is super oil driven, and where I'm from also is too. So
Yes.
I don't know. I guess there's maybe that comparison.
we're definitely not oil folk.
No.
No, and I don't want to force you guys to compare yourselves for my show or whatever, but is there something that like film became a way to express something, or your stories were, do you guys talk about maybe ideas that you have for films? You know what I'm getting at here?
Well, for me, I'd always been like, so for your listeners who don't know me, I'm Indigenous, and we're very natural storytellers. A lot of our history and culture is shared through story, and I'd been told stories from my uncle since I could listen. So since I was like 2 or 3 years old.
Sure.
And I just always liked telling stories and hearing stories. And then I started kind of getting into acting when I was younger. Okay. Because I don't know why. I just liked it. And then I started falling more into filmmaking and storytelling. And to me, it was just, I'd always been creative, and it had nothing to do with where I grew up. It was just how I grew up.
Okay.
So.
Right on. There was no question that that's what you'd be.
Yeah.
You feel the same way?
I was very opposite.
Okay.
I had no idea what I wanted to be. I actually still maybe don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But film is definitely my passion, but I never was like a film. I was so shy. But I was artistic.
Okay.
Like I was always the kid that everybody would go to ask to draw for their project or something. But like my favorite movie was Wayne's World. Like I wasn't a film person. And then I had met somebody, and then they helped me become this like crazy nerd.
Now you're just a big Agnes Varda fan.
Yeah, now I'm just a big Agnes
nice.
Varda fan.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
She's the OG.
Yeah, no. So, but no, I went to school for design and photography at McEwen, and then that's where I had one video class, and I just fell in love, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do, because you can add all the elements, you know, and I like that. I like that there's so many layers to it. But like prior, like I started to go to university at 23, but before that I was working in the oil field. I was doing volunteer firefighting. I worked in a butcher shop. I was just doing so many random things to like
just
figure out what I wanted to do. Those were definitely things I don't want to do, but I learned that I didn't want to do them. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the Wayne's World thing really quick?
Yeah, let's rewind the tape. Wayne's World, not a bad movie, but
no, I feel like there's a lot of pretentious filmmakers out there that are like, oh, my favorite movie is 800 Blows, whatever that movie is. 400 Blows. But it's like, one thing is, too many, like there's, if you love film, it doesn't matter what it is, right? Like, I hated Avatar, loved Piranha 3D. Both came out in the same year.
Sure.
Piranha 3D had better 3D, I think.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
All right.
But it's like
dropping bombs.
I hate Avatar with a passion.
I don't think I ever saw it again after seeing it.
No,
the
same
first
here.
time.
I think I watched it once.
But it's like I too many like young filmmakers feel like they have to be pretentious with the movies they watch.
Right.
It's like, no. I love Coyote Ugly and I also love Almost Famous. Both came out in the same year. Both have to do with following your dreams. Both just were. One's amazing and one's ridiculous.
Interesting.
To me, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
If you love film, you love film.
That's weird. That is weird that film, like cinephilia or like being a fan of cinema and film production, seems to draw in people who are like to be pretentious. But I don't know other art scenes at all. Maybe it's you guys seen.
Well, people would ask me like, "Who's your favorite director?" when I first got into film, and I was like, "I don't know."
Me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm my favorite
Me, I'm the best.
Yeah. No, it's the same. When I went to film school, everyone was like, "Oh, who's your favorite director?" I'm like, Robert Rodriguez, because the guy made a movie, his first movie, on $8,000
with his own blood donation money.
Exactly.
Wasn't that?
What?
But he's not like, you know, if you think of filmmakers, you wouldn't think of him as like
That's commitment.
someone to follow, because his films are always just over the top action films. But
Right.
I liked what he did. I remember watching Desperado as a kid and thinking that was awesome, and like I loved what he did with his career, and you know what he's doing with his career now. He might have a few flops, Spy Kids 3D, but still, you know, for every Spy Kid 3D, there's Sin City and whatever else. So
it is a personal thing, right? And I find that there's that gatekeeping in almost anything. There's these people that seem to be the arbiters of what's good, what's high art, but really you have to strip that away. That's just right. So who is your favorite director, though?
Well, I'm a huge Varda fan now.
Boy, here we go.
I know. Sad that she died.
Yeah, that was pretty recent, right?
Yeah, it was in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, but I'm also like a doc person, so like Werner Herzog is definitely somebody that
I mean, Werner's just
he's
an animal.
I would love to meet him.
Would you? You might not.
No, I might. Like, yeah, don't meet your heroes sometimes because they might turn out to be assholes. But I feel like because I have that German background that I could like get to that like monotone level and like be that serious European for like
Grizzly Man is still the most ridiculously funny.
It's so ridiculous.
Funniest document. It's not supposed to be funny, but with his narration, it's just way too funny.
Oh, I tried.
When he's talking about the bears eating that guy's like, the bears are eating him. I'm like, this is just way too funny.
we know Werner like that.
Yeah, he died a horrible death.
Yeah, he totally did.
I mean, that's his own fault. He shouldn't be hanging around grizzly bears.
That was ridiculous. Yeah.
Anyone who's grown, that's a whole other subject. I don't want to get into that. City people that want to pretend to be bush people are the worst.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, yes.
What do you guys call us? Idiots? Is that a thing?
I don't know. I've never heard that until just now.
Okay.
It's been thrown around a few times, yeah.
Please tell me about that, because that's kind of interesting.
Well, it's just I grew up in a world where we respect nature and we don't, you know. If I see a bear, I'm not going to be like, oh, that's my friend.
Right.
I'm be friends with this giant grizzly bear. No, I'm going to go this way, away from the bear, because I respect it way too much to get involved with it. Like, I think a lot of people that come from the city that want to live in the bush and live off the grid don't realize that that's not your place.
Sure.
Like, yes, it's okay to go and experience nature and whatnot, but remember that that's not your place to be.
Right. It's not your place. Could you assume that eventually? Like, could you make it your place if you did it the right way? Like, you're talking about people.
Yeah, I think Treadwell just really wanted to be a bear. Really.
Yes, that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a different issue. Yeah.
But I do get that. I mean, coming from a rural background as well, like people coming in and thinking that it's easy.
It's not.
And yeah.
I had a big argument with van people the other day.
Van people.
People that. So I have no issue. If you want to live out of your van, live out of your van. But don't make homelessness trendy.
Okay.
Because there are people that live in their vans, not by choice.
Right.
They are forced into living in their vans, and these people are like, oh, I just want to get away from the capitalism culture.
I'm decentralized.
Like, but you are making money off of your Instagram account.
Okay, so I know somebody like that, and we did a short film with them. So I won't say too much about it, but it seemed a little bit like escapism, like you're just kind of running away from. Right.
Which, again, there's nothing wrong with it. Just don't try to make it a trend or try to be something you're not.
Well, it's like TikTok, though. Like, that's what's kind of brought it more to life, because so many people are like, I have quit my 6-figure job and now I live in a van, and how could anybody can do this? And it's like, shut up.
Not everybody can. No. People have kids. People have families. People have so many things.
But it's a privilege thing, right? Like,
and they don't realize. I told them that. I'm like, you guys have privilege. They're like, no, we don't. I grew up poor. I'm like, no, you didn't. You think you did. You still lived in a house. You still had a family. You can still go back to that house once you're done living your van life.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting word, privilege, because a lot of people actually somehow get offended by being called privileged.
I wish I was privileged. Do you know, I grew up being made fun of because I'm a mixed race kid.
Okay.
And I didn't have the same privileges as other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's people don't realize how much privilege they have until they don't have any.
Sure.
And for me, yes, maybe I got a few little things because a lot of my other stuff had been stripped away from me.
Okay.
Most people know their family history. I don't know my family history. I know a little bit.
Okay.
But my family history was stripped away, at least on my native side, because of colonialism.
Right.
Which is a word I don't use a lot of.
No.
I do not. I don't like using the word colonialism or colonizing.
Sure.
I don't know why. I think it's just been used way too much. But I do agree with it, with the idea of it. But it's like a lot of people know where their family comes from. I don't. A lot of people can go into a bar, order a drink, and not be thought of as the drunk native.
Right.
Whereas not all my friends thought that, but a lot of people would like, oh, Eric's having too many drinks. He's a drunk native. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm having the exact same amount of drinks as you.
Yeah, whitey.
But I think a lot of people don't realize the privilege they have, right? And it doesn't just mean you get, you're rich or whatever. It's just you don't have to deal with the same kind of stuff that we have to deal with, like discrimination and racism and bigotry and whatever else.
That's well said.
I hope that makes some kind of sense.
Absolutely. No, I
totally agree.
Yeah. Did you? So, from your point of view, same thing or
well,
similar?
Not
same, but similar?
Rural Alberta is super racist,
Yes,
especially to Indigenous folk, and I deal with that within my own family with stereotypes, and I'm like, that's not cool to say. Okay, cool. I love my family, but there's this layered of they think that Indigenous get handed everything, and they have this conversation. Well, I worked hard for this, and I'm like, yeah, but also being white is a lot easier to get things handed to you. Okay. But they don't know that, and they'd actually there's so many people that don't know hardship, but they think they do. And yeah, it's been an interesting coming home and having conversations about this to see if you can drill it into their brains a little bit. But
I wish I got stuff handed out to me.
Well, they're like, oh, they get free this, free this, free that, and I'm
Free
like,
fireworks.
I
Yeah.
wish I got free
Free
fireworks.
cigarettes.
there was one video where they said they
I got
got
free
free minivans, and there's this guy in Lethbridge that made a video, and he's like, this is the best stereotype ever, and he's an Indigenous man.
That's great.
Yeah, and he's like, I should show you the video. It's really funny.
That's so ridiculous, though, where people are like,
Right?
oh, you get free things. I'm like, no, I don't. They're like, you got free education. I'm like, no, I still had to pay for half my film school.
Right. So to set the record straight, have you been given any sort of handouts that you've perceived as being just that, charity?
Do you guys get $5 a year from the government?
Oh
'Cause
wow,
I
big
do.
spender.
Oh, wow.
What do you spend
What
it
do you
on?
spend that on?
What I do is I wait a few years so it adds up.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
So then I got like $30 and I can go buy Starbucks.
yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, one go at Starbucks. is
Honestly, I don't even
literally
think like
$30.
there's. I don't even know. I can't think of any handouts.
Sure.
I got a little bit of money to go to school, but other than that, it was almost like a scholarship,
Okay.
right? Like I still had to pay half of
Yeah,
my
and you
school.
also need to pay for your rent.
Yeah.
And like your like living as well. Like
Yeah.
you know.
Like some places give because they have lots of money.
Mhm.
They give, like I'm talking about reserves. They give, you know, their students like a laptop and pay for the rest of their school because they have the money
Mhm.
because they, you know, share resources with oil companies or something.
Sure.
But for me, I didn't have that.
No.
You know, I had to. I had to fight to get to go to film school because the people that I had to go through, they were like, well, you're going to school in Los Angeles and it's a year program and we don't really want to pay for that, but it's an education.
Yeah.
Why can't I? Why, like,
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna-
Interesting. They'd rather you just went to trade school. Or,
basically,
Yeah.
they were probably thinking like, why don't you just go to Keanu College, which is a tiny ass college in Fort McMurray, and I'm like, I don't want to go there.
Right.
I
I
don't
know
even
everything
wanna-
already.
I don't even want to go to NATE or whatever schools here have film
Well,
programs.
they are
No, no,
funded
no.
by like industry as well, some of them. So it just feels like it's geared to that
Yeah.
when it's like kind of taking away the artistry, you know?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about what you said about rural Alberta being pretty racist. I interviewed a couple people who they covered some of the stuff that went down in Red Deer back in the fall for City News. And maybe you see it in Fort McMurray too. Like, what is being away from the big urban centers? Why do the racist ideas seem to really be so pervasive there, do you think?
I think maybe because they don't know, they only know their backyard. They
Sure.
only know what's comfortable to them. Like,
Yep.
there's so many people that have never left Alberta, you know, haven't experienced put themselves in other people's shoes, right?
Or they have, and it's just a resort in Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm sorry, but that doesn't count, okay? Like, at all. So, yeah. And, like, I'm grateful I have very progressive parents.
Okay.
Like, they're amazing. I love them to pieces for their brains because it would be a lot more difficult if that wasn't the case. But, you know, our neighbors that come over and stuff like that, I'm just like, oh, my God. Like, but where do you get these ideas? And, like, so many people, you know, the algorithm within their phones that they search,
Sure.
you know, it caters to them. I found that. And also just, like growing up in rural Alberta, like I graduated with like 20 people in my class. I went
Right.
from kindergarten to grade 12 in the same school, and the curriculum was trash. And
Still is trash.
It still is trash.
Yeah.
I didn't learn anything about like what we did to the native people.
Well, that's a new thing. Like residential
Yeah.
schools is a new thing. They just started. I mean, well, now they're getting rid of it again, but they just
Right.
introduced it like within the last 10 years. Whereas, you know, I didn't learn about a residential school until I was out of school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was in university.
Yes.
And
Same here.
Yeah, and it's like, well, this is bullshit.
And there's literally like, I don't know where I am right now. Over in St. Albert, there's, you know, there was a residential school there, and you can walk the grounds and see where the graves are.
Damn.
You know, there's no gravestones, but you know
Sure.
that there's bodies under the ground.
Right.
And like that's just, you know, just outside of Edmonton. And how many people know that? Right?
Well, I didn't
Everybody.
know that. So
Exactly.
they're exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until my brother worked there because it's like a drug addiction place now.
Oh, okay.
And a mental health place. So
Right. Which is, you could say, kind of ironic because a lot of the traumas that occurred in the residential schools are filtering down and
Yeah.
leading to those sorts of behaviors now.
well, I think that's why they opened it there, right? So it's like this place
Okay.
used to be a place of negativity. Now we're trying to make it something positive.
Right on.
That's why they opened it there.
Okay. Yeah, so do you have wider ambitions of maybe making some projects that tackle some of those bigger issues? Like you see sort of the starts of it, I think, in some of your work, but do you want to take that on more boldly, or?
No, because there are better filmmakers out there than me. Someone like me, so I don't want to pigeonhole myself into being an Indigenous filmmaker.
Okay.
This is something I say a lot. Like, yes, there are stories that I want to tell that are Indigenous based, but for every whatever, cultural story I have, I got one about people working in a video store in the 90s.
Nice. Yeah.
So I don't want to just make those stories, because there are people that, like, I didn't grow up on the res. I didn't grow up in a, I had good parents and none of them were alcoholics or anything like that. So I don't know that trauma. I don't come from a family of residential school survivors.
Okay.
So those stories are for other people to tell.
Interesting.
I just want to tell the stories that I like, which is, things that I know, going to the bar, going to therapy, which I should probably do, but I don't.
You don't go to therapy?
No, but
Yeah.
I feel like writing about going to therapy is good enough for me.
Sure.
But yeah,
Acting as a therapist.
as a therapist on screen.
I kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I don't want to be known as an Indigenous filmmaker. I use Taika Waititi a lot as my inspiration for this idea, because he made Boy and Hunt for the Wilder People, which kind of deal with Maori culture. Boy more so, but he also makes What We Do in the Shadows and Thor and Jojo Rabbit. So like he doesn't stick himself into making stories about Maori people. He'll throw a bit of his culture in it, depending. Like what he did with Thor. He used a lot of artwork in his way of showing his Maori culture, and maybe not Jojo Rabbit, other than him playing Hitler.
Right. It was a bold move.
Yeah. But, he still shows his roots.
Yeah.
But also shows his other side.
Yeah.
His other
like that's
side.
the type of person I am. Like I love comedy. I love action. I love horror films, and those are the films I want to make.
Sure.
I don't want to just make the sad Native movies that make people cry. I want to make people laugh.
Sure.
Make them scared. Like, maybe do the Jordan Peele thing where I make a horror film.
Nice.
I don't know what, but I will.
Hey, I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of reductive to say I'm an Indigenous filmmaker. Well, it's like, how about I'm just a filmmaker?
Yeah.
Like,
do you guys call yourselves white filmmakers?
Yeah, I'm a woman filmmaker.
Yeah. Well, okay, so
Maybe I should have said that.
same thing for you then, do you feel sometimes?
Oh, yeah,
Why-
definitely.
You don't have to focus on women's issues.
No, definitely not. And I'm more into like the doc side of things, but I also am like huge on representation. Like I would go with what I know, or make sure like whatever the story is, that I'm not like shooting it from my perspective and making it that type of film, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, I haven't worked in the industry that long to like, I don't know, feel like I'm put into something. I'm just coming in as a filmmaker, and I'm just like eager to be a part of it.
Sure.
But yeah, so I don't know.
And I kind of wish that was the mindset of everyone. Like, you don't have to be ex-filmmaker. You can just be filmmaker.
Right.
Yeah.
But everyone, because it's so taboo, it's like, why? Why is it such a taboo to see, Taika Waititi or Jordan Peele or Guillermo del Toro making films? Like, it shouldn't be. Like, you shouldn't look at Guillermo del Toro and be like, oh, he's a Mexican director. No, he's a director from Mexico who makes the craziest fantasy horror films you've ever seen.
They're so good. I just don't think in filmmaking or in any art that you should be put into a category. It's like even genre at the same point. Like, it's art, and it should be perceived by everybody in any way. It shouldn't be like, well, it's horror or it's that. Like, it could be so many other things, you know? So,
well, if you look at Spielberg is the biggest name in film history, right? And he got there because he didn't just make films about Jewish people. He did Schindler's List, he did Hook, he did E.T. Like, he makes films that he loved growing up, and he did them the way he wanted to. And I think that's why his name will forever be known in film history, because he didn't stick to making films about Jewish people. He made films about whoever he wanted to, because just like Anna, like you, like myself, we want to make films that we loved watching growing up.
Yeah.
And whatever that is.
Yep. I think that's it too. And like all this identity-based stuff that's going on today in the culture, they say that it's to serve the people who are oppressed or minorities or whatever you want to say. But to me, it reduces them to something. And it also takes like, okay, you're an Indigenous filmmaker, apparently. And now all the problems of the Indigenous are yours to solve. It's like, what? I never asked for that. Just like not all women's problems are your problems to solve either.
No, exactly. I even had, like, I was speaking to this woman who works with a lot of, like, film festivals, and she straight up said this to me. She's like, make sure you put somebody of color in your work, because then you'll get into more festivals. And I was like, did you actually just say that?
Yeah. Just say what you just said.
Yeah.
What?
I'm like, that's not good advice that you should give to anybody.
Right.
You should have whoever you want in your film and shouldn't tokenize somebody.
Right.
Like,
But you said on the Story Hive thing, you were instructed that you had to have a woman on your crew.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said, it was kind of counterproductive, because it was like you need at least one person in the creative side.
Right.
So whether that's a production designer, cinematographer,
Yep.
whatever. And I'm like, well, some people might just grab a woman and be like, you're my production designer.
Right.
Whereas, like, why would I just need, like, there are so many talented women out there that aren't getting, the shots that they're getting.
Right.
So I hired a DP that was a female. My first assistant camera was female. Anna, who did a lot of stuff, was...
She apparently directed the movie. So.
No, that was
No, it's
Ancestral Ink.
different.
Oh,
Different.
sorry. Gotcha.
My production designer was female. The only person other than myself on crew was our sound person.
Okay.
Because apparently there's no sound women in the city.
Interesting. Anybody listening?
I'm working with a project with the National Film Board, and I'm like, I want a really female heavy-centric crew. Is there a female sound crew anywhere? And they're like, no, we don't know anyone.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just...
I don't know. I thought of a bad joke that I'm not going to say.
I mean, sound people do sometimes fit a certain stereotype.
Yes. Well, they're like the quiet people in the corner that are just like...
And they're like super into sound.
Yes.
Like they're not,
Yes.
there's no like half-ass sound person. It's like we eat, live, and breathe sound design. It's sound, yeah.
And they're usually pretty weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is that fair
usually.
to say?
Yes, most sound people I know, and they're all great people. They're
Oh, yeah.
very...
No, I know.
They're just different.
They're different.
They do. They hide in the corner, away from people. Like, I worked on a feature a few years ago, and our sound guy, not the feature, the TV pilot that I shot on spec. For those who don't know what spec is, you just make something and hope that it gets made.
Nice.
But I shot a TV pilot, and our sound guy, who was like super professional, just kind of hiding in the corner.
Right.
And we were on set. It was like, I think it was like the last day, and it was a comedy, and I have some of the best comedians in Canada on it, and he broke. And to see a sound person break on set,
Oh no.
like, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
In a good
But like
way.
to see him break on set is like, that you're doing something right when the sound guy just
Yeah.
loses his mind, starts laughing, almost drops the boom.
Nice.
Oh, I thought you
Yeah.
meant like broke, like he was crying.
No,
and I
no,
was
no,
like,
we
oh
made
no.
Oh, God.
We made him laugh so hard he just
That's
lost
great.
his.
That's
his-
great.
I don't know if I can swear on this shit.
Please do.
I don't know what your audience is.
No,
You got
I-
kids won't listen to this.
Fuck the audience. Fuck the audience. Who was that? Who was the sound guy? Remember his name?
No, I don't.
Wow.
I've worked with so many different Edmonton sound guys. And Mike, maybe it was Mike.
Mike.
Of course he's
Mike Olson?
I think it was Mike Olson. I cannot remember for the life of
Yeah.
me.
I don't mean to be a name. I was just curious. Maybe I knew him.
There's only like 3 sound guys in Edmonton. There's Johnny, Mike,
Sure.
and some other person.
Some other guy? I know a few, but you're right. Like
Eddie.
Johnny Blaireau,
Yeah,
Mike
I mean, but
Olson.
Johnny's Johnny. For those who don't know who
He's the
Johnny
best.
is, I was working on a short film while we were mixing sound in his office or in his studio. Literally, he got nominated for 8 awards while we were mixing something else.
That's wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
That is crazy. If you're enjoying this conversation, please subscribe on YouTube and give us a like. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. And now, back to the conversation. I did sound on a short last week, and I could feel it making me weird.
I actually really like doing sound, and I also
mind
really like sound design. I've done quite a bit of sound for like short films or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, like because you need to really be paying attention.
It's true.
And I'm also the person that does get distracted. Like I wouldn't be the best sound person because I'm like, oh, what are they talking about? And, like,
Right.
Point the boom towards them.
I've
pay
noticed that
attention.
once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. He has a
No, go
great
ahead.
photo of me because like I didn't realize that the director's monitor was like already like synced to like the camera or whatever. And,
Okay.
And so she was doing focus. So I was making stupid faces, and then he took a photo of it.
Nice.
I don't think
Oh,
I
no,
can
it was
recreate the
recording.
photo. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was-
yeah.
Oh, good.
Was it recorded? Yeah, because I think I took a screenshot of the footage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that exists.
Yeah, you got to watch it on set because you're being seen from all angles.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And heard too. I think it's something like it's a visual medium, right? So everybody's into the visual.
Mm-hmm.
We're all focused on what does it look like, and there's the one guy who has to just be listening.
Yeah.
I found like if you got your headphones on, you can't necessarily hear if someone's talking to you over here, and then you're kind of it sucks you out of the flow. I find you're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
kind of this outsider almost.
You literally hear everything. You're like, oh, there's a motorcycle outside. And
Right.
you're like on the 3rd floor. Or
do you
something.
know what I just realized? That like every shoot that I've been on, I cannot for the life of me picture the sound person. Like
That's a good thing though. I think
I
They're
worked
never
on
in
a
the way.
shoot for Marvel a few years ago.
Okay.
Just a little ad campaign.
Oh yeah.
Nothing crazy. But I remember every person on the crew. I remember camera. I remember the grips. I remember all of them. I don't remember a sound person. But there was a sound person there
They're
because
so
obviously.
important.
But no, it's just like because they're always like in the background
Yeah.
hiding. I just don't remember this sound person.
That's
I don't remember any of them, which is horrible to think about.
I don't know if it's horrible.
No, it's
I
not.
think
It
it's
means
a
that they're
good-
doing their job well.
Absolutely. They stayed
Yeah.
out of the way, and the boom never dropped in. You never have to look
I
over
feel like
at
that's
them.
why they're different because they kind of like that. We're loners and we
Right.
like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you're kind of like Gandalf over there with the staff.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
always around, just never seen.
Right.
Yeah.
Never seen, never heard either. Yeah, it's a weird. It's weird, man.
But they do, if like again, like we go back to our conversation
Sure.
at the beginning of all this. If you have great sound, you have a great film. If you got bad sound,
You got nothing.
you got a really crappy sound
Yeah.
person.
You got
Yeah.
A, you got
You
a,
hired me to do it.
You got a problem.
Yeah, Anna's over there pointing the boom somewhere else. And, yeah.
Well, I was doing sound on this short with this mixer, and it's a terrible form factor, right? Like it had to be facing up like this. And at the same time, too, like real sound is kind of a 2 to 3 person job, like a real sound department,
Yeah.
right?
It
to,
really is.
To boom and mix,
No.
tough gig.
Oh, yeah.
Tough gig, and they don't get enough credit.
No,
Like,
they don't.
No, and there's like so many times where like booms and shot, and you're like, shit. You know, you move it up and
Right.
hitting them in the head. You're like, oh, so sorry.
Yeah.
I spiked the director in the eye a few times with the mic. Luckily, it had the
Yeah, the
was
soft
that
end.
mic. Yeah. I did want to talk to you about the film that's sort of the header video on your website. Is it The Long Goodbye or Second Goodbye?
The second goodbye, yeah. That was like I did that for school. We had to come up with like a 3-minute short that didn't have any speaking in it really. It
Okay.
was just like visual, and you had to think of sound and
Is
stuff.
that the one on the beach?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that was fun.
Mhm.
It wasn't bad for
First time.
a first like
big
kind of
project?
like narrative thing I've ever made. So yeah, and the actresses were really great, and I got to use like really nice camera gear. And,
What did you shoot it on?
a Canon C300.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not a bad camera.
No, it's
No.
it's not bad because like it's still like nice and portable, unlike the Red.
Right.
And it has like internal polarized
Oh, yeah.
whatever you call those. Can't think of it.
ND?
ND filters.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's nice.
Yeah, which is nice, especially being on like a beach, and then you have like the eye focus part. But
Kind of a cool camera, actually.
yeah,
Like it's the right. You don't have to build it out if you don't want to.
Yeah.
It's all there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like you're outside on the beach, and I'm like, I didn't really want a Red, because we like I was going to NASCAD in Halifax,
Yep.
and they have amazing gear.
Right.
They had all the newest Reds and sound gear, and it was great to learn on until the pandemic showed up, and then
Damn.
I was like, no, I don't have the gear anymore. And then that's why I went in debt and bought myself my own kit, because I
Nice.
was like,
You have
I
to.
need it. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that the slider shot that reveals the woman standing at the, the edge of the water, and the shot of just the IV stand and the oxygen just alone were two like images that like that hammered me. I was like, holy shit.
Thank you.
Like, they really stuck out to me, you know?
The glider shot is so satisfying. That's why I bought a glider, because I'm like, I just want to keep recreating this shot. Yeah.
And so people, that was the right use of a slider, I would say. Sometimes people just use sliders because, you know, they can.
Like in my project on Ancestral Ink, that's why I didn't use it.
Yeah, you're like, this is
it
weird.
looked cool, it just didn't fit the structure.
Yeah, it's, I mean, not to say what, there's ultimately any, you can use whatever you want, fine. You don't have to justify it. But to me, the slider is great for those reveals.
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of like drone shots and using a gimbal. Like, people just overuse it, and then you lose the emotion part of it, you know? Or it just becomes like a traveling, like, YouTube video.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, I worked on a feature a few years ago, still unreleased, but we used a dolly a lot.
Okay.
And I mean, it looked cool, but I don't know if it had a place in it.
Sure. Yeah.
It made it. I know that, like, they were obviously going for, like, to give it a bigger looking budget, but it's like this, you know, this kind of project seems like it's more of a run and gun, you know, shoulder mount, gimbal, whatever, not just setting up a dolly every.
Oh, and that's so
shot.
Time consuming, and
It
also
is.
you gotta
To
like
level it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that, you know, that takes up at least an hour, 2 hours of your time to get everything set up off the truck. And like, if you have the crew for it, sure, go ahead, do as many dolly shots as you want.
Right.
But when you don't have the crew for it and you're, you know, it's way too much.
I hear you. People talk about the cinematic image, and maybe that's like shallow depth of field or a certain sort of sensor to give it that grain or whatever, lit in a sort of low-key way, you know, with the shadows and whatever you want to say. To me, the cinematic image is something like every camera choice, every lighting choice has to suit the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, there's so much thought that needs to go into it. It's not just go and shoot it. There's like the mise en scène.
Absolutely. Totally. I haven't heard that in a while.
I haven't heard that since film school.
Mise en scène.
It's fresh in my brain.
What is mise en scène again?
It's like whatever's within the frame that creates meaning.
Sure.
So, and that includes the actors as well. I think that I may have like messed that.
No, that's the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah,
right?
Because it's French for what? That mise is make? Like mettre is the verb make?
It's like make the scene, right? So if you, let's say you're shooting a bar scene,
Right.
but you don't have any liquor in the bar,
Yeah.
You fucked up.
And
obviously
then
you
it's
messed up.
exactly, and then it's the actors' expressions, it's their makeup, like it's everything within the frame, and it has to like create flow and meaning, and not just, you know, there's so much thought that needs to go into
Yeah,
it.
things need to be on the screen for a reason, right? Like,
Yes.
there's some movies that just like have something in the background, but you have to think like, why is that there? Why is that in the background? You know, you're in a doctor's office and they have all their plaques on the wall. There's a reason why there's all those plaques. That tells you that this guy's a doctor. He's probably a good one, or she. I shouldn't say he.
No.
This person.
How dare you? This is over.
And it's funny because like in film school you have to like really analyze all these different films from all these different directors, which I love, but sometimes I'm like, maybe they just did it because they thought it looked cool, not like, oh, this meant
true.
communism in this era and the Cold War really replicated in his face, and I'm like, maybe they just thought it looked super rad.
What's that great analogy? It's like, author writes that there's a blue curtain, and it's the English teacher, what's the meaning of that purple curtain?
Right.
And the writer's like, I just wrote a purple curtain.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
sometimes it's just there's stuff there that are there for no other reason.
It's true. How do you know that in the case of a film they didn't just get the location and didn't touch anything? We're like, this is sick.
Yeah.
Let's just shoot it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, like the bar in Reserved,
Okay.
I think all that really my production designer did was put up a couple little like crappy dollar store party supplies to make it look a little more raggedy.
Sure.
Other than that, the bar was really raggedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Raggedy
I don't think
enough.
we had to do any work to it, I think, but it just added a little bit more, a little more shine to it.
Sure. That's cool though that the storytelling in film works on so many levels, right? Like you say, like maybe the purple curtain is just a purple curtain, but is it?
To somebody
know?
else, they're like, oh my god, it reminds me of my grandma's house. And this
Right.
is
And then
bringing me back.
there's the
But I think
interpretation for
that's
sure.
the amazing thing about film, right? It's like people can watch the same movie. You know, you go to a theater and there's 100 people watching.
Right.
Not all those 100 people aren't going to come out and be like, wow, that movie was great. People are going to be like, that movie sucked. That movie was great. That movie reminded me of my childhood, right? People go and see art and get different interpretations of it. You know, if all three of us went to look at that rock over there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see a rock with writing on it. I see a rock with culture and history.
Sure.
Anna might see some kind of cool, I don't know.
I hear you. She might look deeper at the patterns of the colors and whatnot, the
Yeah.
texture of the rock.
For those who don't know, we're sitting next to like an Indigenous park with lots of cool art.
Yeah.
So
I've actually never been here. I go down on that side of things, which you made the right call to come here.
yeah, it's a little bit
Yeah.
quieter over here.
It is. It is totally. Yeah.
I just want to keep talking.
No, I would. I totally would.
I don't know how long your podcast wants to be.
There's no limit. My only thing is I want it to be somewhere by 4, but I'm not.
It's only 2:30.
Is it? Oh, it is too.
We're rocking.
We got this.
Yeah.
All right.
What else can we talk about?
Yeah, I can trim this. I didn't do a ton of prep. I thought you guys were sort of like me in that you're in the same sort of line of work, so I figured,
Yeah, have a conversation. We're both, or all of us are really into film. Which
I just
nice.
like talking.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to anyone outside of my little bubble in months.
I know. I see people and I'm just like word vomiting.
Yeah.
Everything. I'm like, yeah.
yeah.
And I'm vaccinated now. I can start.
Oh, are you?
I'm only
start
half
something.
vaccinated.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't-
I'm half
I
vaccinated.
don't get my next shot until like 4 months or
Yeah, I
something.
can't get mine till August.
So stupid.
Was it ever a question to you two that you would not get the vaccine? You always
No.
just knew as soon as it comes, I'm getting it.
I'm
At
not a
first-
conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
I'm not. I know nothing about medicine or science. If a doctor tells me it's good, I'm going to take it.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was at first when like the pandemic hit, if they like came out with a vaccine like a month after COVID, I'd have been like, maybe.
Yeah,
I feel like
right.
this is like too soon, but like it's been a year, and also like my mom's a nurse, and
Okay.
like we talk about like she knows more than I do about all these types of things,
Right.
and I'm like, I eat crap food and
Yeah.
I sometimes drink a lot, like occasionally. Like I've done terrible things to my body. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is not.
This ain't the one that's going to get you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm not going to listen to the person on my friends list that failed grade 9 science. Why would I listen to that person when I can
Exactly.
listen to people like
Yep.
I have a friend who's a literal doctor in the U.S. I would rather listen to him than the
Right.
guy that we did not graduate with because he didn't graduate.
Right.
And like
Who's
all the
also
money
no
was
longer
pulled
on the
into
list.
making this vaccine
yeah.
because they don't want this to keep happening. So like obviously, these scientists are putting time in to like help the planet. So
I hear you. I think that's the right thing to think.
yeah.
But my Twitter timeline is full of the opposite.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know what to think. But then you think, well, in the past, people like that wouldn't have had a platform to say any of this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And I think that's the issue, is that these people... is that a prison bus?
oh God, here we go.
It looks like a prison bus.
It's about to get a lot more
I
exciting.
don't know. The guy that's driving the bus looks like he's wearing a skater hat.
I
Yeah.
think it's a wedding.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's the issue with social media now, right?
Yeah.
Like, people that... I mean, there's good and bad to it, right? There's...
Yeah.
people that are speaking up about injustices that we couldn't have spoken up about
Right.
before. And then you got the idiot who's like, the mask doesn't work. I haven't been sick in a year. Tell me that mask doesn't work. I haven't even gotten a cold,
No, I know. I didn't get it either this year.
which I usually get like 3 times a year because people are just disgusting.
People.
And they're coughing
Also,
in your
like,
face.
people are like, oh my god, this is against my human rights. I'm like, I can list off so many things that's against human rights, and masks are not one of them.
No.
Like, we are sitting in a park right now talking on a podcast. That's not a police state.
No,
There
absolutely.
are no police
Yeah.
coming here to knock our brains out.
You're right.
Like, people
But-
don't realize what a police
Like,
state
also,
is.
this comes down to privilege again. Like,
Exactly.
you
Sure.
know, like,
Okay.
I know what government control is because I have a card in my pocket that tells me what my culture is, what
Yeah.
my race is. Do you guys have that?
no,
No.
exactly.
I wish
I
I
know
had.
what a government control is. And
Interesting.
that's barely control.
No.
Like 4 years ago, sure.
Mm.
2021, not as much. But it's like people don't realize how much freedom they have. Wearing a mask, getting a vaccine, or not getting a vaccine because
You
you
have
have
the
the
choice.
freedom not to.
Yep.
Just because some places are saying you can't travel to our country without a vaccine is not new. If you want to go, you went to Portugal, did you need to get a vaccine?
No, but if
No.
I go to like South America or something,
you still
know,
need to get a
there's
vaccine.
malaria, there's
That's a
like,
good point.
yeah, those
People
types
don't
of
realize, like, they're... And another idea, when you talk about the privilege and with that stuff, right?
Sure.
It's like, there are countries in this world right now that wish they had the privileges that we had, where they can go to Shoppers Drug Mart and get a vaccine.
Yep.
But they can't because they don't have drugstores they can go to. They have to walk 30, 40 kilometers to a, Red Cross tent to get a vaccine. People, I think it's just the mindset of a lot of people is ridiculous.
Yep. It's interesting that anti-vax, anti-lockdown movement really does seem to take hold in the rural areas also, with that other sort of super conservative or closed-minded. But it's also interesting that, would you think that maybe the conservative mindset might be more towards like being in favor of conserving and getting that vaccine? And like I feel like the politics of the day are just...
It's hard because it's like at this point, like I'm just like frustrated with the conversation of conservative and liberal. Are you conservative? Are you a liberal? And it's like, right? I don't want to be put into this category of what I am. Like I don't, my ideals don't always line up with what party.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
100%.
Like I believe in green energy, but I also believe right now, oil is what we have and what we need to use until we have the resources for green energy. That's a conservative and a liberal view.
It is.
Exactly.
That old thing of like it's two wings of the same bird. Like but almost now it's just like if you go far enough one way, you're like it's not enough to really, like we were saying, all this identity-based shit where you're a woman and you're and you're Indigenous and I'm the white oppressor. It's not enough. It's really not enough to break down what we're dealing with here.
No, it's just like we keep putting up walls when we're not working together in any way. It's just like you're like this, so you're a piece of shit, and it's like
right.
You're just like this creepy old white man, but we're like, or you're just this like lazy Indigenous person, and like everybody's getting put into these little...
I mean, I'm lazy, but not because of my race. I'm just lazy
because I want to be, okay?
By choice.
Yeah.
So do you have a sense of what a solution might look like for that? Or where I've come to lately is like, no, there actually is no solution.
There's a solution, but I don't think the three of us can find that.
Sure.
It's just about finding that common ground that people can look at each other and not see culture or race or gender or whatever, right? But that's not going to happen anytime soon because people are still so close-minded that they see two guys holding hands in the park and it's disgusting to them. But for me, I don't care, whatever. Yeah. I'm just mad that they have love and I don't.
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, how does these two gay men or two lesbian women or at least people, how do they affect your life like personally?
Yeah.
If they don't, well then just shut up.
It really doesn't. Like unless those two whatever people are coming at you with a baseball bat and a knife and they're going to kill you, then maybe there's an issue with them. But
right.
If they're just walking in the park holding hands, that's not going to kill me. Right.
So I'm like a farm nerd. And
right.
So like I'm really sad that like these small communities are dying and stuff like that. And this isn't like solving the world and the problems and stuff, but I'm really like community based, and I totally believe if we like start thinking of where we are instead of like this global massive thing that we are, because we are interconnected and that's never going to go away, but nobody really knows, eating food from where they live.
Yes.
Or from the farmer. It's all like mass produced. It's like even like veganism. Veganism is a type of colonialism. You can't Google best country to be vegan. It gives you cities. It's a city thing. It's a cult thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't believe like any indigenous food system, they eat meat and vegetables because you work with the wild. You work with your environment. You don't just go fucking make tofu. Like
that's another privilege thing.
Exactly. It's colonialism or not colonialism. Veganism is a privilege thing as well.
And they don't realize, they don't want to hear it.
No.
If I could count on one hand how many times I've argued with vegan people, I couldn't.
Oh, it's like Seaspiracy. We could want to get
a conversation on that. I argued with the filmmaker of that film because he posted something about the seal hunt.
Oh, yeah. I was so mad because have you ever watched Angry and Nook?
Yes. Watch Angry and Nook if you get a chance.
Great film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically Angry and Nook it's based on, well, not based. It's made by a Nook filmmaker, Inuit filmmaker, and it's basically about her and her family and how they're trying to keep the seal hunt alive because, one, it gives them food, it gives them an income, it puts food on their, or clothes on their back because they make clothes from the fur.
Sure, yeah.
And then you have all these people that live in
California
or wherever that have never been up north,
Right.
that can't grow vegetables up north, that have no idea what it's like to live in a small, tiny Inuit community where there's no running water or
Right.
electricity, trying to say that the seal hunt is bad. And
because they're cute. The animals are cute. They're not endangered in any way.
no, and the pictures that they
What?
show are from like the 80s,
Yeah.
when clubbing the baby seals was a thing.
Sure.
And they don't do that.
They don't do that anymore.
No.
They use old imagery and say this is what they're doing, this is bad. Yes, they're probably at one point was bad, but there's regulations in place.
Okay.
The same with anything that's conservation wise.
And it's like is this how Greenpeace makes their money? Because they found a cute animal that they can promote that people want to spend money on to stop, so then
Okay.
they can get more money to do their other vegan shit. So
Well,
Right.
they drive a big giant ship in the ocean
Yeah.
leaking oil.
and
Right.
like Kate, so I also like there is a time and place and conservation, and I totally agree with that. But they've never been up north
Okay.
to ever go into these communities to actually experience and talk to these people. It's
Right.
all built up in their own narrative,
Yeah,
and
but
it's sad.
That's
I like using the term shockumentary.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
exactly.
They shock people into thinking that these things are bad.
right.
That eating fish from the ocean is bad because it'll deplete our resources. No, the industry of fishing is bad.
Right.
But my sister-in-law's family taking their boat out on the ocean, catching 50 salmon and giving it to their family members because they can't afford food is not bad. They're feeding a community. They're canning their own tuna or their own salmon and selling it because it's their only means of income.
Right.
People don't realize that, like, there's these communities on the ocean that can't go to Vancouver and work because they don't know Vancouver. They don't feel comfortable working in a city like that. That's why when you see homeless people in Vancouver, a lot of them are Indigenous because it's just not, they got thrown, it's a culture shock and they couldn't handle it and they just fell on hard times.
Sure.
And that's what, like, that's Seaspiracy. They don't, it was very more Asian centric hate,
Well,
which is another thing.
But it was
that's
also
different,
just
yeah.
like them going to places and demanding an interview. Well, you didn't phone them. You just showed up and you're like, we need to know about this now. And it's just like, that's counterproductive. And then they dramatize other interviews with other people. And it's just like, to me, it doesn't feel real then. It just feels like you got what you wanted out of it.
Right.
And you know what? There is subjectivity in every film. It's very, like, it's going to be to your bias completely. But you should try at least to, like,
Yeah.
not make it so, I don't know.
Overt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of issues with it, especially these white people going to different countries and like we get it, like we've saw other films of the dolphin hunts and stuff, and yeah, it's crappy, but we also need to come back to North America, like in Halifax in Nova Scotia, like they totally have a fishing mafia there.
Oh yeah.
And those types of things, and also like crazy stuff with like lobster fishermen and Indigenous lobster fishermen and all these different things. Like, maybe come here and we can discuss this, because why are we going to other countries to...
Can we talk about that amazing flex last year when the
Oh,
Micmac
yeah.
bought the fisheries?
That was amazing.
Wild. I forgot about
That
that.
was
They were
amazing.
getting attacked for just catching like 50 lobsters or whatever it was they were catching.
Right.
Meanwhile, this industry is catching thousands upon thousands, and they're like, "Oh, these
It was
natives are catching
horrible.
all our fish," and then they were like, "Okay," and then they just bought the fisheries.
It was great. Like, I was in Halifax or in Nova Scotia when that was happening, and like it was just so insane, like what these white fishermen were saying to people, and they burnt down their lobster bay or whatever,
Yeah.
and it was just insane. But then they did that, and I was like, yeah.
But then that's, I mean, I shouldn't say but, because that makes it sound like I'm going to argue with you on that.
No.
That goes back to like everything, right? It's just the people that have the louder voices that are being heard, and it's these loud fishermen that are so angry that a couple native people are catching 50 lobsters.
But this is a repeat of history, because there's an Indigenous filmmaker, I can't remember her name, Alanis?
Alanis
Yeah,
Abawasi.
yeah, she's
If
amazing.
you don't know who she is, she's She's like Agnes Varda for
Yeah.
Indigenous people.
Okay.
Yeah, and so she has like multiple films on even with fishing in Quebec especially.
Hundreds of films.
Yeah, and it's just like you're basically just watching a repeat of history, and it's
Yeah.
just sad.
But she
Hi there.
wait for these dogs to all come back.
I'm speaking now.
The Dogs Podcast
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Bring them on, special guest.
Yeah. But yeah, so Alanis is, what is she? Anishinaabe?
Yeah,
Anishinaabe?
I think you're right.
From Ontario, from Ontario, and she makes. I would say she probably has made a documentary a year, maybe two, sometimes.
Wow.
Her credit list is just insane. Like, she's made so many documentaries, shorts, features, whatever, and a lot of the documentaries she makes are on Indigenous issues. A lot of it is, something that she made 30 years ago is still relevant today.
Oh yeah, so and she's there. She's
Yeah.
not like she's actually in the action. She's a part of it.
Oh, she's been arrested multiple times.
Oh yeah, like
Nice.
she is there and giving a voice.
Yeah.
Which is great.
But she's also the sweetest woman I've ever met in my life. I met her a couple of years ago at Imagine Native. One of my friends
Oh,
was
that's
with me,
amazing.
and she was like, we just went up to talk to her, and she was like, my friend Haley was like, oh, I did this documentary. Alanis was like, give me the link to it. I want to watch it. I want to support
Nice.
That's
it. And you
amazing.
could see the look on Haley's face. She was like ready to cry. This is like if, Spielberg was like, let me watch your film.
I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Let me just go edit it like 4 more
Yeah.
times before I give it to you.
Bit of sound design stuff
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
I think you hit on it though, Anna, and you sort of indirectly, Eric. It's like people not living sustainably, and people being disconnected, or people connecting themselves to the world at large, and really the problems are
Yeah,
within,
like,
right?
There was this guy who was speaking. His name is Jeff Singer, and he's done a lot of like hunting stuff or whatever. But he's like, people think it's strange that I go and forage and I kill deer and moose and eat that. But he's like, I think it's strange that we eat bananas from Mexico and kiwis from New Zealand. Like, these, like, it's cool that we do that, but it's not from here.
Yeah.
Right. You don't see the process that it takes to get those kiwis to you.
Yeah.
How much water, how much gasoline, how much...
Yeah,
Gasoline
exactly.
that they use. and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so hate or love Joe Rogan. I'm on the iffy side.
Same here.
He says things like when talking like people get mad at him for hunting, but not mad at other people for going to McDonald's, right? Like
Right.
he hunts elk and he puts food in his freezer and he doesn't have to worry about buying processed meat.
Right.
The true it doesn't matter what you think about Joe Rogan. He has a point,
He
right?
totally does. I totally agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Because, okay, well, that animal's is gonna die a horrible death eventually.
Yeah.
Why not one shot and end it, and then you can feed your family for
Yeah,
a
like-
year off of one big elk?
Exactly. I grew up on a bison farm, and I remember this
Okay.
woman saying, this vegan woman, she was like, I don't respect you because you don't kill the animal. And I was like, okay, whatever. But this animal didn't live in close quarters with other animals.
Yeah.
It wasn't like laying in its own filth. It had so much room to live its life. It had no idea that it was going to be shot in the head
Right.
and die. But then these animals in feedlots are just like bred to be eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I like chicken wings, but
Yeah, I mean, we all like sometimes, but
We all benefit from this factory farm
Yeah.
system. Let's not...
yeah. I mean, as much as possible, I try to buy from local farms and
Okay.
butchers.
Cool.
But I mean, I hunt every year, and I get one moose, and that feeds my I have a big family. I got 5 brothers, 5 sister-in-laws, 12 nieces and nephews, my parents
Wow.
and myself. One moose feeds our entire family for a year. That moose doesn't go to waste. And then anything
No.
that we don't take, we leave, and we leave it for other animals, other scavengers. Like anytime we've ever gone hunting, by the time we were done, there's like 8, 10 ravens. There's whiskey
Yeah, exactly,
jacks,
because
the
that's
whole-
natural.
Yeah,
That's... Where should it go?
yeah, and we don't. We're not like. I don't like the idea of trophy hunting. I don't like people that take pictures of the things they kill.
Sure.
But as long as they're using it and they're taking everything that they need, I like when Anna has done it as well. But whenever we kill something, we thank it for giving
okay.
itself up.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know, usually like with me, if we cut a tip of the heart and we put it somewhere and we make, you know, say a little prayer of some sort. Not like a religious prayer, but like, you know, thank the creator and the animal, and we give that heart back to nature, and something will eat it.
Like my film that I just made, it was my niece wasn't going to, like, my niece and nephew weren't going to be the center of the film, but it happened, and it's because we killed a bison. It had broke its leg, and when a bison is weak within the herd, they get shunned out. Okay. And then normally in nature, the wolves would get it. So we were other wolves, I guess. But we shot it, and we all said thanks and stuff. And then I was walking down we're going to go skin it. And she's bawling her eyes out. She's crying, and because it's her first death. And then later she's helping skin it. And then we're in the meat shop and we're putting it in bags. And then the last shot is us eating the animal. And it's just like, but that shows kids empathy. Like if you totally, I don't know how I'm going to find what my dad said, because it's like so good.
It's got me thinking about how, like, this is a good example of like the food system. Like I went and spent X $100 at Costco the other day. I didn't see where any of that shit came from. No. But so in the same way that I'm disconnected from where I get my food, it's also like people are disconnected from what is really truly important to them. Like like you're saying, suddenly it's these Californians that are now concerning themselves with Inuit seal fishermen, seal hunters.
Well, meanwhile, eating avocados from Mexico that are picked by you know, poor farmers that
avocado
are getting
mafia.
5 cents per avocado they pick.
Right.
Like,
and so the privilege in this case, then, if I'm understanding, is because I get to even do that. Not me, but them. They get to bitch about what some other culture is doing, which is far more sustainable than what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
So it's hypocrisy.
It really is.
Definitely.
And that's, again, that's the shockumentary aspect of it. They're trying to shock you into thinking that this way of life is so bad and so horrible that...
Because there's some suffering involved with it, the animals. How much suffering do you think to get those avocados to you? There's probably still some, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Again, the know, farmers that are making not even a minimum wage that are picking these fruits and vegetables for you. If you've ever been to California and you drive through like the fruits and vegetable field, you see these, you know, Mexican people picking your food for you. Right. Last year when they had the big forest fires, there were men out there picking, during forest fires and coronavirus, picking fruits and vegetables while wearing masks in, you know, 100-degree weather.
That sucks.
That food's going straight to these, you know, these little hippie vegans that have no idea where their food's coming from. Right. The same way that, you know, meat eaters don't know where their food's coming from, unless you obviously source it yourself.
Right.
Yeah, there's a huge disconnect, and it's sad.
It is sad. I wonder if that's not part of the larger problem here, is that we're disconnected from what it means to be human in some ways.
Definitely.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with being vegan.
No.
But if you make it about culture and politics, then there's an issue with it.
Right. It's like anything else. It's like, I heard it called like misplaced spirituality. It's like, okay, I don't believe in God, but I believe in veganism. You know, it's like that same.
It's kind of a religion.
Kind of is. And there's lots of examples of that these days. We took God out, and we got to fill it with something.
Yeah.
No. Worshipping cows.
Yeah.
Sure.
So my dad said, he's like, when we shield ourselves from the reality of life, when they do come, we won't be able to handle it. And that's the thing. If we're constantly shielded from, like, we grew up with hunting and that empathy side, like, we respect the animal because we've been through the whole process of its life being taken. But, you know, people that go to McDonald's have no idea. Like, some people I've met, they just think hamburgers they don't realize it comes from a living, breathing thing. God. You know? So
what was the quote again that your dad said?
When we shield ourselves from the reality of life, when they do come, we won't be able to handle it.
I agree with that. I think that's what this pandemic has exposed in some ways, where it's not okay, it's been bad. Obviously, I'm not going to go down some conspiracy nut road here, but it could have been a lot worse for sure. The people took this as an example or an opportunity to just freak out. Really, wear 4 masks, wear 3 masks, stay inside forever.
Yeah.
I think that it was always going to go this way in this time. People were going to just, because they've been shielded.
Freak out,
right. Now something happens that kind of rocks my boat, and I'm going to lose it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that is one thing about rural life, like, hasn't really changed out there.
for better or for worse.
in a sense, yeah.
Yeah. That's great stuff. Anything new coming out like right away for you, Anna, that maybe people can see?
I just finished my like short doc, and I'm gonna put it in a film festival circuit, and then after that probably start showing it. But
Beauty.
Yeah.
Edmonton and Calgary close soon. Just saying.
yeah, I need to
And
get on
Toronto.
it. Yeah.
Toronto closes in May.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard that the late deadlines for film festivals are just like a cash grab.
Basically.
Like they've made their decision after the early bird, or not the early bird, but maybe the final
See.
deadline. That's just what I was told. I mean, I
wouldn't doubt
blame
it.
them.
Like,
Business
yeah.
It
is
depends on the
business.
festival, right?
Sure.
Like sometimes they'll. I mean, I submitted a film to Edmonton and Calgary 2 years ago, reserved basically.
Yeah.
I submitted to them like a month after it was supposed to be in, but because they knew me, they gave me the benefit of the doubt. Didn't get in, obviously,
Oh.
but
Still.
they let me do it, and they gave it to me for free. So maybe sometimes it's not a cash grab.
Hey, they gave you the fee waiver. That's
They
nice.
do. I always get the fee waiver.
Damn you.
I'm an alumni.
Nice. And what are you chipping away on? Like, what's coming out next for
That
Eric?
is I have so many things on the go right
That's
now.
the worst question I could ask.
I'm doing a short documentary for the National Film Board. I've got a feature film that I'm producing at the end of this month because it's May now, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know when that happened.
Developing a feature film that hopefully we'll shoot next year in Yuma in Arizona.
Nice.
Developing a TV series for CBC.
Damn.
And that's about it.
You need crew for any of that?
We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, I'm looking for some work.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I needed some money.
Yeah.
Depends where I film.
Fair.
I'll
fair,
go to
fair.
Arizona. I'll come.
It wouldn't be so bad. I don't know if the local crews would love that so
No.
much, but
No.
No, exactly.
We're not.
Yeah.
no, for sure. And anything together you guys have in mind, or maybe not right now?
Not at the moment, but I'm
No.
sure something will
Yeah,
pop
something
up.
probably
Something always does, right?
always comes
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where Ancestral Ink goes.
Yeah,
and-
so I submitted that already to Edmonton, Calgary, and Toronto, and
nice.
ＩNIGINATIV. So hopefully those go somewhere.
Sweet. Can people see that, or you're waiting till
No one can see it until it's
done its
it's
thing?
it's the requisites, right? You can't show
No, fair enough.
it online until it premieres at Toronto.
So what you sent me of Ancestral Ink, is that the whole thing? Like it's just a short?
Yeah, it's just a
Okay.
quick 3-minute, 4-minute, whatever it is.
That was cool, man.
Yeah.
It was really cool. It had a great look. It was kind of dark in there. Hey, it was like I didn't
Yeah.
mind. It wasn't overly done. It was. I liked it.
It was such a small space.
Seemed like
yeah,
it
small.
there wasn't too many angles you could get, especially because you don't want to hit her because she's putting ink on somebody's body.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But no, she was cool with it.
Oh yeah, she was great. Great
Oh,
energy.
the client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, both
Pop-
of them are.
Poppy
Yeah.
and
Oh,
the
good.
client.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff.
I don't even think we talked about that project at all. We talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of that's like your most recent
Yeah.
thing. So what you were saying, like you and her father and your father have history,
Yeah.
and you kind of were
Yeah.
always in touch. And you said, "Hey, you want to do this?"
Yeah. I thought that was the reason why we're coming here to talk about
Well, we can talk
Yeah.
more
Then
about
we
it.
started talking about meat and
we went
vegetables.
Club
all the
seal.
way
Yeah.
off the.
That's what these are all about, though.
Yeah.
I'm fine to come back to it. Like, well, maybe was there something that needs to be said about it?
No, not really.
Eric, come on.
I think I said everything that needed to be said. It
Yeah.
was like,
Oh, you don't want to say too much about it either, right?
well, it's that, but it was also like a 1-day shoot, 4-minute documentary. There's
Sure.
No real story behind it other than I got bored and I wanted to make something, and I called Anna because she had a camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I know Poppy does really beautiful stuff, but her indigenous
Well,
like
she-
Cree designs are so unique and so cool and I don't see anybody else doing that.
No, and she's getting more into those designs because she's been reconnecting with her culture a lot, and she wants to do more of that stuff. And so but she doesn't want to just do like, she wants to make it her own. So she adds her own little poppy flair to it,
Cool. She's got her own.
which she
Yeah.
literally says in the documentary.
Yeah.
I gave it my own poppy flair.
My home pop. I thought it was neat how she said she thought maybe she was an artist, but never found her medium or her
Yeah.
niche. And then she found it through tattooing, which is,
Hardcore.
well, it is
I love
hardcore
it.
because you kind of only get one shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no eraser.
No. It's a painful eraser.
It is.
Yeah, sure, it's a laser. Isn't
Yeah.
It? Yeah. No, that's cool. You know what's interesting? There's that indigenous culture, because like you were saying, you get painted as sometimes whatever stereotype you want to say. And I'd be honest, growing up in a fairly privileged and white scenario, I didn't know about Indigenous culture. The more I learn about it, the more I see it as being supreme in some ways, because it's so grounded in the land, and it's very,
a connection.
Yeah, I don't want to put words in your mouth and tell you what it is, but
I mean, I don't know if I would use the word supreme.
No, I don't mean it that way, but it's not. Here, let me put it this way: it is not what I thought it was, and the more I learn, the more there is to learn, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I'd much rather learn from the Indigenous than go to a fucking church. That's to say the least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people, they don't there's, first of all, you can't just paint with one brush when you talk about Indigenous people, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because there are 500 plus nations across, Canada, Canada, U.S., and Mexico.
Sure.
And there's so many different cultures, and like what I believe in is not what Cree people believe in, or what Blackfoot, or even Métis people. There's so much and so much to learn that we're no one's ever going to learn it all. And I think that's the issue, is that we all just kind of we all just got lumped into one thing. And it's like, Native people lived in teepees and they roamed with the buffalo, and it's like, no, my people never lived in teepees. It was too cold.
Oh,
there was no buffalo up there. We hunted caribou.
Wow.
We didn't wear little buckskin
loincloths
because that's just uncomfortable.
It's not practical.
Well, there's also like that conversation too, which would be a whole other podcast on how like Hollywood has made those stereotypes.
Can we come back for part 2 and talk about that?
Absolutely, we can.
I could talk about that forever.
We definitely can. But
I'll put it in the short form. Watch Real Engine. Give it a chance.
Okay.
It's a National Film Board project.
Okay.
It talks all about Hollywood and their glamorization of Indigenous culture and how negatively wrong it is.
It's a really good film.
It is. It's amazing.
Real Engine. Is that one of those ones you can see online on their site?
So.
Yeah, it might be on their site.
Nice. You guys have given me some good recommendations.
Well, these are projects that a lot of people should be watching more of.
Yep.
Because they are told from, the point of view of the filmmaker, like the culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you or Anna were to make Real Engine or Angry Nook, obviously it would not
from
be
a white
the same.
Perspective,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. At least
be right.
Seaspiracy kind of apologized for putting up the seal thing. Like it's because they got embarrassed because there was an Inuk woman that like on TikTok that like shit on them, so they
I just want to say I did it before everybody.
Yeah,
I was the first person that made any comment on his post.
Good.
Nice.
Good.
Actually, you're pretty outspoken on Twitter, Eric.
Oh, I'm ridiculous.
I love it.
I started deleting a lot of tweets because I don't want them to come back.
Honestly, I think you're shadow banned because I haven't seen you in so long. I was like,
Who knows?
I used to get a daily Eric, just like sarcastic tweet that I had to smile.
Twitter is where I go to just talk shit.
Yeah.
And it's never like, I'm never like insulting people.
No.
More so I'm insulting what they're saying.
Right.
And it's always what they're saying is very negative and wrong.
Right.
And I just want to make fun of them.
Which should absolutely be allowed.
Yeah.
I think it's better that we shit all over someone's ideas and their words than them necessarily.
Because their point of view usually, like if it's somebody who, you know what, not even. Yes, maybe. Even if they're coming from a place of, even if it's positive. So yesterday, I don't know if anyone heard about the Rick Santorum thing that came out a few weeks or days ago. He was on CNN talking about how basically it's saying there's no Native culture in Native America or in America.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Rick Santorum.
That was so
Who
bad.
was that again?
He was like a senator at one point, and then he was
okay.
on CNN. I don't know.
It was so bad. It was so embarrassing.
It was
Cringy.
really embarrassing. And then the Washington Post posted an article written by a white guy, and he was like, well, Rick Santorum is wrong, but also his critics were wrong. And I was like, his critics? Are you talking about us?
The people that he was...
And I kept telling him, he was like, we'll read the article. I'm like, I don't need to read your article. You're telling me that I'm wrong by saying Rick Santorum is wrong. You're telling me as an Indigenous person that what Rick Santorum said about Indigenous people is wrong. You are doing the worst possible thing you can do. Even though you are, I am so sorry. This was recent.
No,
but he was like,
go ahead.
Basically, he was like, telling us that we were wrong for speaking up because he had all the answers. He was an academic who, does Native history, but it's like,
Right.
you can't speak. You can speak, but you can't speak for us.
Right.
And you're basically what you're doing is speaking for us, and that's so wrong because we have voices now. This isn't 20, 30 years ago when we couldn't. We tried and you guys silenced us.
Right.
It's that was a whole thing for
No,
me
it's-
yesterday. But that's what my Twitter is. I call out people,
You should.
and
Yeah.
if I don't
Exactly.
do it to ever. I'm not like a troll, and I'm like, oh, you're so stupid.
Right.
I'm like
Like
you
you-
have stupid
yeah.
views, and I'm going to call you out on your stupid views.
Yeah, if you like come at them with like knowledge and you're not like you're an idiot. Like
Yeah.
you
Sometimes I
actually,
do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a low blow or a...
And sometimes I start an argument and then I block them because it's funny.
Nice.
They're so frustrated. They're like, dude.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, I got him. I'm like, no, you didn't. I just didn't want to argue with you anymore. I'm bored.
Well, that's crazy that like speaking for you thing is like, it thinks it's not racism. It thinks it's not somehow coming from a place of supremacy, and it totally is.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's just to be like they're so unaware, but they're
Sure.
aware. Like it's so
Well, it's
Weird.
It's like going back to last year with the Black Lives Matter thing, right? There were people putting on their own little rallies or protests that were white people.
right.
And it's like, well, why would I go to that? Why would I go to your rally when you don't know what these people are going through?
no, exactly.
I would rather go to the one that's put on by, people in Edmonton that are black, that are
Yeah.
either academics or activists or whatever. The one that they had at the Ledge, which was
Oh yeah, that was
where
huge.
Anna was there. There was like 10,000 people there,
Yeah, it was a big one.
as opposed to a little one that was done by like 2 white people, and there was like 30 people.
Well, like even in Innisfail, I guess weren't they gonna have like a Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter, and then they canceled it? or
Well, no,
something?
they still went on with
Yeah.
it, but they. And again, I think it's because there was no black people in it.
Yeah,
It was done by a white woman.
Yeah,
But she had the right intentions, and she was doing
Yep.
the right thing.
yeah,
And she invited people from Edmonton and wherever else, and actual black people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of people should be doing, is bringing these voices in to speak, and not just
Yep.
a white person that's like, oh, black people's lives matter. And it's like, yeah, but I don't want to hear it from you.
yeah. It's like it
Right.
comes back to like that representation thing, right? And also like some white people just want to get pat on the back, be like, I went to a Black Lives Matter protest. I started
Yes.
one, and it's like,
That's-
good for you, Candace. Like,
Like when you went, you weren't like, oh, I'm at the Black Lives Matter protest.
No.
I'm so activist. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you went there
To see what was-
support and to listen.
I had a old white man
Yeah, I love
go
this
up to
story.
me, and he was like, go up to me, my friend and I, and was like, have fun at the hate rally, you fucking bitches. And I instantly went, I hope you die later. And I was like, oh my god, I've never said anything.
Didn't he call you
terrible like
Dyke? I
that.
thought he called you Dyke.
Oh yeah, he called us because my friend and I were like, we're giggling, and we're
Right.
holding each other's arms, and he was like, lesbians, gross, hate rally. What are you talking
lesbian
about?
activities.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
the only hate I see here is you.
Yeah, like oh my gosh, like it was just wild. Yeah.
Another thing too about that, I think, is he really had his problem was not one of race or
No.
politics. It was a mental. It's like on a personal level.
Yeah,
so
it
much
totally was. Yeah.
It's like you just took up a spot in his eyesight at that
Yeah,
moment.
he felt
and-
uncomfortable because we were doing lesbian activities, which
Lesbian
wasn't at all.
That's my new favorite term. Lesbian
Oh man,
activities.
that was so embarrassing for her.
for your
That's
friend.
No, there's this lady online,
She's a
Tamara something.
MLA or an MP.
Yeah, and she was.
In BC.
They're
Oh.
trying to vote on conversion therapy,
Oh, okay.
which shouldn't ever be a thing ever. Still, like it's
Conversion therapy, like if you're
if you're
homosexual.
gay. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so she was like, "Oh well, my friend's daughter was like a lesbian, and then she changed her mind, and she went through it, and it was successful." And I'm like, "No, that girl is still probably a lesbian and is terrified."
Of
And
your
I'm like,
therapy.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Dropping bombs. I've heard that one before though.
I mean, he's single. He's never had a girl that we
He's
know of.
totally a closeted gay.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to put this on your podcast.
I really
don't
don't
know.
care. I'm looking for that. I've been looking for that one. So
He
maybe
totally
this
is.
is.
Doesn't he still live in his mom's basement?
Yeah,
like,
that's how he was able to run in this election.
Oh my god. I mean, smart.
Wanted to
I
make sure
guess.
there's, like, no-
I love living with my parents.
No
so-
UCPs hiding in the woods ready to jump on us.
Yeah.
Oh god.
No, we're in a pretty safe part of town for that.
Yeah, we're in
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Indigenous
we're in
Park. Do you
Strathcona,
think they'll
that's
be
right.
here? Fuck.
This is the most liberal place we could be sitting right
Yeah.
now.
Unless you're on the corner of White Ave and you got those crazy Bible people.
Oh my.
Oh yeah.
Which I love. I love them because
That's
they're
old
so-
school. That's old
Him
school.
and his milk crate
Yeah.
telling us we're all sinners while we get blackout on White Ave.
Ugh, I miss those days. I miss getting drunk on white and seeing that guy. Now
We just
I'm
heckle him.
sober and I see him. Like, this isn't fun.
This is not right.
You're just yelling at me.
I was here. I was on white last night. And it was a different guy in a different corner, and then one corner down was like some kind of, I don't know what they were. They were trans rights activists or whatever activists, and they were, it was like a mini pride congregation. I was like, wow, this is Edmonton.
Yeah.
You're seeing it all.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Thank you guys. This was great.
Yeah,
This
that
has
was
been
really
the
great.
craziest podcast I've ever been on.
People would be like, what are we even talking
Yeah,
about?
who are
I
these?
don't even know what we're talking about. We went off the rails. We started talking about whatever.
That's
Yeah.
kind of the plan. It was
Yeah.
like, you can only talk about filmmaking for so long.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
we're people with ideas, and
Yes.
Yeah.
maybe our ideas don't make sense, but whatever.
That's the point. The podcast. None of the shit I say really is
No.
fully baked, So I kind of just like, even when I said like something about Indigenous culture, I was like, this is a risk, because he could just be like, what?
Yeah.
But it got, so it's about that.
It's a conversation.
Just try it, just try it. So I appreciate that you guys were open to it. I know, Eric, you came from Morinville.
It's like 20 minutes away.
Okay, fine. I was trying to give you some credit, but thanks.
Anna came further.
Right.
Fort Assiniboine.
Oh, see? Represent Alberta far and wide.
Yeah.
Yes. It's awesome. Anyway, thanks, guys. I'm going to cut, but
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
I can't wait for the sequel. What were we going to talk about on the sequel?
Stereotypes.
Stereotypes.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Right on.
Thank you for listening to the North Bank Media Podcast. If you enjoy this conversation, please subscribe on YouTube and give us a like. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe as well and leave a 5-star review.